I'm deeply critical of recommendation letters in the college application and admissions process. I argue in my second book, Surviving the College Admissions Madness, that they're a gigantic waste of time. They do not make a difference in 98% or more of applicants' admissions chances. So before we address recommendation letter policies at UT Austin, let's first consider an alternative example. The University of California, Berkeley forbids applicants from submitting letters entirely. Between the University of California's 9 campuses, and if you include all freshmen and transfer applications, the UC system receives almost 900,000 applications each year. Each of those apps is read by a human reviewer. So consider that if each applicant submitted a recommendation letter or two, and if each letter takes at least a few hours to request, review, coordinate, write, process, submit, and then read by the applicant and then the admissions reviewer, that's at least a few million human hours that the UC system saves by not requiring recommendation letters in their process. I wish every university were like the UCs regarding recommendation letters and forbidding them entirely from the process. I use this example as a reference point for how much time and energy recommendation letters waste throughout the country. It's at least tens of millions of human hours, particularly since many of the top 50 private universities like Rice, MIT, or Stanford require them for admissions eligibility. Although UT Austin doesn't require them and they are optional, many universities also require a counselor letter of recommendation, which privileges applicants who attend exclusive private schools. Teachers and counselors at elite high schools also have a lot more experience with writing letters. Many public schools have a counselor to student ratio of between 500 or maybe even 1,000 students. So they don't have time to mess around with rec letters on top of their other unpaid obligations. Every application item that universities require provides one more barrier for a low-income, urban, rural, or first-generation student to even not bother applying. Moreover, attaining potentially strong references privileges students who can sort out which teachers are the strongest writers, or those teachers willing to dedicate adequate time to submit their best efforts on behalf of that student. Over-involved parents sometimes step in to pressure teachers to spend a lot of time on their child's letter. Despite many institutions that claim to support diversity, equity, and inclusion, teacher and counselor recommendation letters remain a fixture at elite universities. Their precise role in holistic review processes also remains unclear, and it's subject to the whims of each institution and each individual reviewer. Some universities provide a separate score in their internal file review process around rec letters, but recommendation letters are vague, like most college essays. According to the common data sets, over 1,000 American universities consider them in the admissions process. Even still, few universities rate rec letters as considerable or very important, so they themselves agree that it's low on the hierarchy of what matters in the admissions process. The most frustrating part is that recommendation letters rarely affect the admissions outcome of an individual applicant. UT Austin even added more confusion to this issue when it modified the language on its admissions page to, quote, strongly encourage students to submit letters that come from outside of school. They changed this for fall 2025, and the idea that UT had was to not pressure students to worry about getting letters. But like so many universities, they entirely focused on their own policies. UT fails to realize that since many top universities require recommendations, and often those recommendations must come from teachers or from core subject teachers, almost every competitive UT applicant will acquire letters at some point during their application process. So what happened in practice when UT implemented this suggestion in fall 2025 is that thousands of families, mostly from suburbs or college-educated backgrounds, scrambled to get letters from those non-school sources like family, friends, or UT alum. I have no doubt that UT received many thousands of references that added no new information to an applicant. However, if a critical mass of universities did make this change like the UCs, then perhaps UT's difference in policy could make a difference. But unilateral changes will not produce UT's stated intention to reduce school staff workloads. If UT were sincere about its care for school communities and staff workloads, it would have forbidden recommendation letter systems entirely, just like the University of California did many years ago. But the other bigger issue is that many UT honors programs require teacher recommendation letters for their processes. And since most competitive applicants nowadays also apply to UT honors, the changes to the regular admissions recommendation letter system becomes mostly irrelevant. It's the case where the Office of Admissions left hand doesn't know or how to coordinate with the UT honor program's right hand. Moving on, rare are the teachers who have reputations for writing excellent letters who also provide a clear framework for students to request them. Rare teachers have rigorous standards and they even decline more requests than they accept. But, and those are pretty uncommon teachers who submit comparatively few letters. But the best teachers make an effort to discuss the student the specific ways that they've contributed to class, any memorable projects, favorite lessons, perhaps obstacles that the student has overcome, or the teacher provides context to their grades, like improving from a C to an A. Rec letters can be very compelling. They just rarely are. Other teachers are reference letter mills, who churn out dozens of letters each year. Most write superficial letters that could apply to most students most of the time. Many teachers simply aren't strong writers either. And with the emergence of ChatGPT, I'm certain, and I've seen them myself, that many references use AI entirely to write their letters, which only adds to the mountains of AI slop that admissions reviewers see nowadays. Among the thousands of applications I reviewed for UT Austin, I can recall less than 10 times that an outstanding letter bumped a student's review score up. Like college essays, most teacher references aren't especially well written or insightful. They're vague, not specific to the student, and they're just a repetition of what's already on the transcript or resume. Students also don't provide adequate documentation about the specific examples or events that they desire their letter writer to discuss. I find that my clients spend a disproportionate amount of time and energy trying to game plan who to ask and how to go about asking for letters. But it seems like an exercise in futility, since most rec letters aren't very good, and then they're skimmed in less than a minute by admissions reviewers themselves. And when I tell families all of this, their perspective goes through one ear and goes out the other as they scramble mindlessly to get those recommendation letters. Even submitting them to the Common App or on your UT My Status causes logistical complications, and sometimes students miss early deadlines because their references haven't uploaded these entirely optional letters, except in the case of honors. Overall, similar to the college interviews, recommendation letters are a giant mess, and if I could wave a magic wand, I would remove them entirely from the admissions process for all universities and all programs, including UT Honors. I hope you enjoyed this video about how recommendation letters are a waste of time and rarely make a difference. The easiest way to reach me is by email at kevin@texadmissions.com and to complete the questionnaire in the information section of this video for a free email admissions consultation. Thanks, and I hope you have a great day.